and I love how you've adapted to be in this new environment of Valley Christian.
Maybe change the name to Valley Muslim.
They should change the name to Valley Muslim. After that, I love that.
Oh yeah, it's on a mountain, by the way.
And they call it Valley.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're too good.
So our next speaker is Dean, and he grew up in Australia and was raised with non-religious parents. And he got exposed to Nichiren Buddhism through his now wife. So he's very passionate about the impact that Buddhist practices have had on his life, and he'll be sharing how he seeks enlightenment in the day-to-day. So give it up for
you. Hi everyone. So my name is Dean, and as Nita mentioned, I grew up in Australia, and my family was not religious in any way. We didn't have any religious practice. We celebrated Christmas, and but it was all completely secular. You know, we had presents and everything. But I met my wife in 2005, and she introduced me to Buddhism. She's been practicing Buddhism for her whole life. She was born into the practice. And it was a big part of her life. So when I started dating her, she would also take me to these meetings where we would go to people's houses, and we would all sit in a circle, and she's Korean, so they were all Korean as well, and they all spoke Korean. So I had no idea what anybody was saying. But they had really nice food, and they were all very nice. So I enjoyed going to the meetings. And they would also do this thing called chanting. They would chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for maybe 10 or 15 minutes before the meeting, and I thought it was an interesting practice. It was a very strange thing to me, having never been surrounded by religion. I had no idea, like, what does it mean to be, to go to a religious meeting or something. But I liked the sound of it, and eventually she started taking me to some English language meetings as well, so I started to understand things a little bit better. And you probably have all heard about Buddhism before. I had heard about it before I started dating Grace as well, and I had some idea about the Dalai Lama and stuff like that, but I didn't really know what it all meant. Like, I didn't know anything. I thought meditation and Dalai Lama and monks living in mountains and things like that. But the history of Buddhism is actually quite interesting. So I'm sure you all know that it started in India. It started with Gautama Buddha or Shakyamuni Buddha. And this was about the 6th century BC. And he said a lot of different things, and people listened to him, and they wrote them down and passed it on through the generations. And there were all these different sects of Buddhism all around the world. It sort of spread from India to China and then to Japan and like around the world like that. In the 13th century, there was a Japanese Buddhist monk named Nichiren, and when he was a child, one of his he was kind of a strange child. He had made a vow to become the wisest person in all of Japan, and he became a monk, and he learned, he studied all the different Buddhist teachings, and he realized that the Lotus Sutra, which is one of the teachings that the Buddha preached, was like the supreme teaching. The main point that the Buddha was trying to make is encapsulated in this Lotus Sutra. And the two main points that the Lotus Sutra makes is, number one, the simultaneity of cause and effect. So that means whenever you make a cause, the effect is already part of the world and it's going to manifest no matter what. And the other one is people can manifest Buddhahood in their daily life right now. It's not like you have to go off and be a monk, or you have to die and be reborn 1,000 times and then you become a Buddha. You can do it right where you are in your daily life. And this is kind of symbolized by the lotus flower. The lotus flower, it grows up in muddy water, and it they get the pure white flower coming out. And this is the daily life is the muddy water, and the Buddhahood is the lotus flower. And also the fact that the flower and the seed pods come out at the same time in the lotus flower. That's the simultaneity of cause and effect. And so Nichiren determined that this was the main point that the Buddha was making when he was trying to practice, and all the other things he was teaching were like expedient means. They were like just, his goal is to make people happy and make people seek enlightenment and all that sort of thing. So he was trying to figure out how to teach that to people. And then eventually he came up with the Lotus Sutra, and that was the main point that he was trying to make. So Nichiren in the 13th century, he said, okay, everybody, the Lotus Sutra is the way to do it. You can chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is the Japanese title of the Lotus Sutra. Actually, Myoho Renge Kyo is the Japanese title of the Lotus Sutra. Nam means, it's a Sanskrit word, it means to devote yourself. Myoho is the mystic law. And Renge is cause and effect. It's the lotus flower, so it's the Lotus Sutra. And Kyo, Kyo means sutra, or teaching, or voice, or something like that. So literally, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo means I devote myself to the mystic law of the Lotus Sutra. So in this case, mystic doesn't mean magical. It's achieved through our own efforts. We don't have any higher power or beings or anything like that. We ourselves contain all of the power we need to become happy and make the world happier as well. And the organization to which we belong is called the Soka Gakkai. This is a Japanese organization as well. So just prior to World War II, there was a man named Tsunosaburo Makiguchi who started this organization. He wanted to start it was a school actually. He wanted to start a school, and he believed that he could teach people, how to be better in life through Buddhist practice. So he started the school, and then during the Second World War, the Japanese government was very oppressive, and they didn't like anybody practicing any other religion other than Shinto. So they put him in jail, and one of his disciples, Josei Toda, was also put in jail. He passed away in jail. Mr. Makiguchi died in jail because he wouldn't renounce his religious beliefs. And when he came out of jail, when the war was over, Josei Toda was released from prison, and he rebuilt the organization. And one of his disciples, I guess, was Daisaku Ikeda. And he is now the third president of the Soka Gakkai. And he has spread the Soka Gakkai to 192 countries around the world. And there are now 12 million members practicing around the world. So this was the organization I joined back in 2006. I didn't know any of this at the time. One of the main tenets of Buddhist practice is, we call it, one of the three pillars of practice is faith, practice, and study. So every day we do our chanting. We chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo to the Gohonzon, which is like a scroll. And we also that's faith. Then we do practice, which is talking to people, spreading the word, and also part of chanting is also practice. And study is, every month we join those meetings that I was talking about, and we talk to each other, and we share our experiences, and we read from the Gosho. We call the Gosho is the writings of Nichiren. And so through that I learned all about the practice, and there's no priests or anything like that. Our organization is just all lay people like myself. I just, I have a normal job and everything like that. So I learned that through the practice that one of the things before I joined the practice is my life was very passive. I would just go through life and things would happen, and I was working in a job which I just gotten out of university. It was the first job that they told me to join, and so I was doing it. But it didn't really have much of a future, or there was not much progression for me to do that. So I didn't really care. I was just whatever. I would go home and watch TV and eat dinner and go to work the next day. I didn't have any ambition or goals or anything. But one of the things that I learned through Buddhist practice is, because you have to make the effort yourself. So you have goals, you set goals, you work towards them, and because we chant morning and evening, I think you mentioned too, you do pray 5 times a day, right? It means you're thinking about it all the time. So it's always on your mind about your goals and your ambitions for life. So through the practice, I've been able to achieve so many things in life. I don't have time to go through them all. So I was able to find a job that I really enjoy. We moved to the US. We have our son, Sean, he's here tonight as well. And he's also, starting to practice as well. So it's just I just like that idea of consistent practice and polishing yourself and always improving yourself. That's like the core of the benefit that I've received from this religion. Okay, that's it.
Any questions for Dean?
I explained it so well, didn't I?
What is the Dalai Lama practice?
Dalai Lama. Yeah, so that's one of those, you have to go off to a mountain and live on a mountain kind of sects of Buddhism where you have to like separate yourself from society. That's Theravada Buddhism or something. But yeah, like the Buddhism I practice is in your daily life is where you achieve enlightenment. So we don't, he's like a, if you were a Christian, he would be like the Pope.
I see.
But we're like something else.
I had a question.
Yeah.
On the concept of simultaneity you talked about.
Yeah.
For cause and effect, of how positive thinking and positive actions and words will lead to positive things in your life and results. It's pretty profound, but I think at some different level is also believed and practiced in other religions as well to some extent. Was that the one of the main things that drove you towards Buddhism in their ideology, or was there something more that had you consider Buddhism as
Yeah,
very ideal?
that's a good question. So like I said, when I was growing up, I didn't have any religion, and I didn't really like the idea that something else was in control of my life. I liked the idea that I was in control of my life. The thing that wasn't working for me is I wasn't doing anything with that. I was just like watching TV and going to bed and waking up and going to work. The thing that drew me to Buddhism is like, yeah, you're in control of your life, but that means you've got to do something about it. You're the one who has to take action, and you're the one who has to take responsibility. And the idea of cause and effect is you can't control the effects. Like the things that are happening to you, they're happening to you, and the only thing you can control is your reaction to what's going on. So you take responsibility for, this is where I am in my life, this is what's happening to me. It doesn't matter how bad things are for you. That's just the way life is. You can't control that. So your reaction to that is how you improve your life, and that's the thing that was really, that I really enjoyed, that I was drawn to, is the you're in control and you are the one who takes action.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.